They say there's no shortage of behind-the-scenes drama in Hollywood. Co-stars who feud off camera, once-in-a-lifetime casting disasters, secret betrayals. There's always a story hidden beneath the surface. But few of those stories are as layered and unexpected as what happened between Nancy Kulp and Buddy Ebsen. They lit up the screen on the classic television series The Beverly Hillbillies, portraying an on-screen partnership that fans found delightful, quirky, and endearing. Yet, behind those studio lights and friendly smiles, a conflict simmered for years, fueled by political passions, clashing personalities, and one of the most surprising betrayals in sitcom history. In this deep dive, we're uncovering the real reason Nancy Kulp came to harbor a deep dislike, some might even say hatred, for Buddy Ebsen. Their dynamic, both on and off the set, is a tale of two complete opposites who were thrown together by Hollywood fate, only to discover their differences were deeper than mere disagreements. From the earliest days of their careers to the jaw-dropping conflict that erupted decades later, the tension between Nancy Kulp and Buddy Ebsen is a story that will make you question just how much we really know about the actors we love. Before the Beverly Hillbillies brought her fame, Nancy Kulp led a life so multifaceted, it's a wonder she ended up in Hollywood at all. Born on August 28, 1921, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Nancy was the only child of parents who emphasized education and public service. Her father was a traveling salesman, which gave her a sense of independence and adaptability from a young age. Her mother, on the other hand, was an educator who would eventually become a school principal. It was a household that valued discipline, hard work, and intellectual curiosity. By the time Nancy entered college, her focus was on journalism rather than show business. She graduated from Florida State University with a degree in journalism, though at the time it was known as the Florida State College for Women. Upon completing her studies, she began working at the Miami Beach Tropics newspaper. In that capacity, she interviewed a range of high-profile personalities, from Hollywood superstar Clark Gable to actual European royalty. These early brushes with fame were glimpses of a world she might enter herself one day, though at this point, she couldn't have guessed that she'd soon become a recognizable figure across the nation. Like many in her generation, World War II interrupted her path. Not content to remain on the sidelines, Nancy enlisted in the U.S. Naval Reserve and proudly served from 1943 until the war's end. She reached the rank of lieutenant, demonstrating the same disciplined, no-nonsense approach that would later characterize her performances on screen. It's worth noting that Nancy's choice to serve was still somewhat unusual for women of her era, reflecting her sense of duty and readiness to stand up for what she believed in. Such convictions would define her life and also set the stage for the ideological clashes she'd eventually have with Buddy Ebsen. Born on April 2, 1908, in Belleville, Illinois, Christian Ludolph Buddy Ebsen Jr. spent most of his formative years in Orlando, Florida. His path to Hollywood was far different from Nancy's. While Nancy cultivated an intellectual, methodical approach to life, Buddy's early passion was dance. He and his sister Vilma toured the vaudeville circuit, building up a reputation as an effortless dancing duo. When the pair arrived in New York City, times were tough. They reportedly had so little money that Buddy could barely afford to feed himself. Yet his perseverance paid off. He broke into Broadway, then landed dance roles in early Hollywood musicals. He even danced alongside the beloved Shirley Temple, capturing hearts with his loose-limbed charm. But perhaps his most intriguing early career tidbit was his collaboration with Walt Disney. Buddy's dance moves helped Disney's animators figure out how to illustrate Mickey Mouse's movements, a piece of cinematic history that speaks to Buddy's role in shaping early American entertainment. Buddy's career was not without its hardships, however. The most famous is the story of the Wizard of Oz. He was initially cast as the Tin Man. This should have been his big break into legendary cinema territory. But the aluminum dust in the makeup was so toxic that it nearly killed him, forcing him out of the movie. This unexpected setback not only cost him the role, but also placed his health in jeopardy. Despite that near-fatal brush with Hollywood's darker side, Buddy's resilience and sunny demeanor prevailed, earning him a reputation for being pleasant, easygoing, and reliable, qualities many presumed defined his entire personality. Throughout the 1950s, Nancy Kulp and Buddy Ebsen navigated Hollywood in their respective corners. Nancy started scoring small roles on popular shows like I Love Lucy and Maverick, often portraying characters who were serious, witty, or slightly quirky. By embracing her non-traditional looks and sharp intellect, she carved out a niche that allowed her to stand out. Buddy Ebsen, meanwhile, frequently appeared in westerns, playing either affable frontier types or occasionally turning villainous. He jumped from show to show, racking up credits, and proving he was versatile enough to take on many roles. Yet he never quite had that star-making breakthrough that propelled him to the top of marquee billing. Both, however, were recognized as dependable professionals. Their acting styles were deeply contrasting. Nancy delivered nuanced, crisp performances grounded in intelligence. Buddy favored a more laid-back approach, injecting a gentle folksiness into each line. These differences in style were overshadowed by the fact that neither of them had landed the role that would define their careers, at least not yet. By the early 1960s, television executives were cooking up what would become the Beverly Hillbillies, a show that would dominate ratings and culture, giving both Buddy and Nancy the parts of a lifetime. When the Beverly Hillbillies premiered in 1962, it was an instant smash hit. People couldn't get enough of the Clampett family, a backwoods clan that struck oil and suddenly found themselves millionaires in the posh world of Beverly Hills. Buddy Ebsen landed the central role of Jed Clampett, a warm-hearted, simple man endowed with a significant amount of common sense, if not formal education. His relaxed style, iconic catchphrase, "Well, doggies," and a fatherly presence made him the perfect anchor for this ensemble cast. Nancy Kulp scored the role of Jane Hathaway, the loyal and sharp-witted secretary to Mr. Drysdale, the banker overseeing the Clampetts' finances. While her character was by no means a family member, Miss Jane was crucial. She bridged the gap between the Clampetts' humble worldview and Beverly Hills society. Audiences quickly fell for her earnest devotion, her occasional goofiness, and that comical but oddly endearing crush on Jethro. Nancy's performance was so compelling that she earned an Emmy nomination, which is no small feat for a comedic role in that era. Off-screen, fans assumed that the cast got along as splendidly as their characters did on the show. But behind the scenes, the simmering tension between Nancy and Buddy was something only insiders initially detected. If you watched an episode, you saw Miss Jane and Jed sharing friendly smiles and comedic exchanges. Yet, whenever the cameras weren't rolling, their relationship was far more complicated than that. According to cast and crew, Nancy Kulp and Buddy Ebsen's disagreements rarely revolved around the scripts or acting methods. Instead, they sparred over their fundamentally different worldviews. Buddy was famously conservative, upholding traditional values that aligned with the era's right-leaning ideologies. Nancy was more liberal, progressive in her beliefs, and never hesitant to argue passionately. During filming, they kept things civil. The Beverly Hillbillies was a top-rated show, and they were both professionals who knew that personal conflicts had no place ruining a hit television series. Still, there were rumors of on-set debates that would drag on for days. According to some, the tension could grow so thick that other cast members made a point to steer clear. But paradoxically, this tension never really surfaced in their on-screen performances. Nancy's Miss Jane retained her gentle admiration for Jed Clampett. Buddy's Jed remained a steady presence, always polite to Miss Jane. Their skill as actors allowed them to maintain a veneer of warmth that audiences found delightful. For a while, it seemed that the differences might never come to a head in a public way. The Beverly Hillbillies ended in 1971 after 9 seasons, leaving behind a legacy as one of the most watched television shows of its time. Buddy Ebsen capitalized on his fame and soon found new success as the star of Barnaby Jones, a detective series that enjoyed a robust following. He had finally escaped the risk of being perpetually typecast as Jed Clampett and demonstrated his range as an actor. Nancy Kulp continued to pick up acting roles, but felt a calling to move beyond Hollywood. She had always been politically aware, a trait that had kept her at odds with Buddy Ebsen's conservative viewpoints. Over time, that awareness grew into a desire to serve her community in a more direct way. She drifted away from the bright lights and turned her gaze toward politics. By the early 1980s, Nancy's interest in public service led her to pursue a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Many were intrigued by the idea. A beloved TV actress, stepping out of the comedic limelight and into the charged arena of congressional politics. But was the public ready for a Miss Jane Hathaway in Congress? In 1984, Nancy Kulp ran for Congress in Pennsylvania's 9th District as a Democrat. It was hardly a friendly political environment for her. The district had reliably voted Republican, and Nancy's opponent, Bud Schuster, was a well-established incumbent who had already served multiple terms. Nevertheless, Nancy threw herself into the race with the same commitment she had brought to every chapter of her life, whether it was the Navy or Hollywood. She ran on a platform of progressive values, focusing on social welfare programs, education, and other reforms meant to support the everyday American. While some might have dismissed her as a TV star seeking attention, Nancy campaigned seriously, traveling throughout the district, speaking to constituents, and addressing local issues with genuine concern. But then, in a turn of events that shocked observers, Buddy Ebsen emerged from his California life to endorse Nancy's rival. He recorded a radio advertisement criticizing her stance as too liberal, warning Pennsylvania voters not to be swayed by her Hollywood fame. The subtext was clear. Buddy did not believe Nancy was fit for office, and he was willing to use his own considerable celebrity to undermine her. For Nancy, this was an emotional gut punch. It wasn't simply a coworker disagreeing with her political views. It felt like a deeply personal betrayal. She later expressed her disbelief that Buddy would actively campaign against her, given they had worked side by side for years, creating a show that had brought joy to millions of viewers. Suddenly, the public saw the cracks in the Hillbillies' facade. Nancy hadn't made a habit of denouncing Buddy publicly, but after that radio spot, she did not mince words. She told reporters that Buddy's image as the kindly patriarch, Jed Clampett, was just that, an image. Behind the scenes, she insisted, he was a fervent conservative, unwilling to see viewpoints that challenged his own. Ultimately, Nancy lost that election handily. While there is little evidence to suggest Buddy's endorsement alone caused her defeat in a staunchly Republican area, it undoubtedly dealt a significant blow to her morale and tarnished whatever cordial connection she and Buddy might still have shared. In the aftermath of the 1984 race, Nancy retreated from the political stage. She never mounted another high-profile campaign, although she stayed engaged in public issues. Instead, she embraced a new chapter of her life, teaching. She became an artist in residence at Juniata College in Pennsylvania, where she taught acting and enriched the cultural life of the campus. Students were captivated by her stories of the Beverly Hillbillies and her passionate approach to performance. Her dedication to mentoring echoed the discipline and leadership she had shown throughout her earlier pursuits. Buddy, meanwhile, continued his acting career and personal interests. Though he would remain best known for his portrayal of Jed Clampett, his starring role in Barnaby Jones kept him in the public eye for several more years, and once that show ended, he continued to make scattered appearances on television. Later in life, Buddy turned to writing and found another creative outlet in penning novels. Fans who approached him for autographs often still viewed him as the lovable backwoods millionaire who led his family to Beverly Hills. By all accounts, Buddy did not resent that association. He seemed to acknowledge that playing Jed Clampett was his greatest legacy, though it also came with the baggage of how he had treated Nancy. Buddy Ebsen lived to the ripe old age of 95, passing away in 2003. Near the end of his life, rumors circulated that he felt remorse over how he had gone after Nancy during her 1984 campaign. Some sources say he wished he had not inserted himself so directly into her political pursuits, acknowledging that it forever severed any chance of a genuine friendship. Sadly, Nancy Kulp passed away in 1991, so any possibility of a late-life reconciliation never materialized. The final chapter of their relationship was defined by political discord, yet if there's one positive takeaway, it's that the tension never affected the magic they created on screen. Even decades later, fans still watch the Beverly Hillbillies and see two characters, Miss Jane and Jed, whose gentle chemistry masks a fierce, real-life conflict behind the camera. Looking at their stories, Nancy and Buddy each left significant marks on American pop culture, though in different ways. Nancy's portrayal of Miss Jane Hathaway proved that you didn't have to be the show's main star or the glamorous leading lady to become a beloved figure. Her role remains a tribute to her comedic timing, intellect, and determination to challenge Hollywood norms. Beyond acting, her post-Hillbillies life underscores a commitment to serving her community and broadening her horizons, even if her foray into politics didn't yield a victory. Buddy's legacy, of course, is tied up with Jed Clampett, a character so iconic that even future generations who never experienced the original broadcast still recognize him through reruns and cultural references. He represented a certain slice of American mythology, the well-meaning, country-born millionaire who never lost his sense of humble decency. But, ironically, the real Buddy Ebsen was far more complex. Underneath that laid-back persona was an unshakable set of convictions, strong enough to lead him to publicly denounce a former colleague. Which leads us to the burning question: why did Nancy Kulp utterly hate Buddy Ebsen? Hate is a strong word, but in this context, it captures the deep breach of trust and ideological clash between the two. They were never close friends, but the final act, Buddy's involvement in Nancy's election, seemed to push her feelings to a point of no return. Nancy's worldview was shaped by her experiences in education, journalism, military service, and the publicity department at MGM. She believed in social progress, championed liberal causes, and valued open-minded discussion. Buddy, shaped by a different set of life experiences, was unwaveringly conservative, staunchly believing that Nancy's political ambitions clashed with his own values. When Buddy lent his voice to publicly criticize Nancy's candidacy, it struck a nerve that she couldn't ignore. It crossed the line from casual workplace arguments into public, personal sabotage. In the aftermath, Nancy expressed her betrayal in no uncertain terms, revealing a pain that lingered long after the campaign ended. Their feud is also a lesson in how people who appear to get along on screen, especially in the famously collaborative environment of a sitcom, might be worlds apart once the cameras stop rolling. Acting is a craft, and actors are professionals. They can project warmth and camaraderie, even if they can't stand each other in real life. Moreover, the story of Nancy Kulp and Buddy Ebsen goes beyond two co-workers who didn't see eye to eye. It touches on the potent influence that politics can have on personal relationships. Their mutual respect as artists couldn't survive the political gulf that lay between them. The fact that Buddy felt compelled to intervene in Nancy's political run, and the fact that Nancy was so wounded by it, speaks to how strongly each held their beliefs. While Buddy Ebsen's last-minute regret hints at what might have been under different circumstances, we can't rewrite history. The feud stands as a testament to the very real divides that can surface when personal convictions collide. Even comedic sitcom stars aren't immune to the sometimes harsh realities of ideological battles. The next time you watch an old episode of the Beverly Hillbillies, pay attention to Miss Jane Hathaway and Jed Clampett. On the surface, they're lighthearted caricatures bouncing through comedic misunderstandings. But if you look closely, you might see subtle sparks or glances that reflect the tension beneath the smiles. Knowing how things played out in real life adds a layer of complexity to what was otherwise a family-friendly laugh fest. While Buddy Ebsen's last-minute regret hints at what might have been under different circumstances, we can't rewrite history. The feud stands as a testament to the very real divides that can surface when personal convictions collide. Even comedic sitcom stars aren't immune to the sometimes harsh realities of ideological battles. The next time you watch an old episode of the Beverly Hillbillies, pay attention to Miss Jane Hathaway and Jed Clampett. On the surface, they're lighthearted caricatures bouncing through comedic misunderstandings. But if you look closely, you might see subtle sparks or glances that reflect the tension beneath the smiles. Knowing how things played out in real life adds a layer of complexity to what was otherwise a family-friendly laugh fest. So, there you have it. The story of how two beloved actors from one of America's favorite sitcoms ended up in one of the most surprising and personal conflicts in Hollywood history. Nancy Kulp's dislike of Buddy Ebsen was no mere rumor. It was born from deep personal and political differences that escalated when he campaigned against her congressional run. Now, we want to hear from you. Does it change how you view the Beverly Hillbillies to learn about the off-screen drama? Do you think Buddy Ebsen should have stayed out of Nancy Kulp's political race, or was he just standing up for his own beliefs? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed uncovering this behind-the-scenes Hollywood feud, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more classic TV deep dives. Until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.